Now, there are a few obstacles in front of us. And I think a lot of the people in this room know about those obstacles. And so let's put them on the table. You know, one of the things that people talk about, they say, well, I don't know if you can raise the money. You know, fundraising is, of course, a big issue. But let me tell you about what we've done and what we're doing. So the first thing is that I have an incredible campaign staff. Many of whom are in this room tonight. I'll talk about one guy, Alex Morgan. I brought Alex Morgan on because many of you may know that he ran Shelley Madura's campaign for city council. In that race, Shelley was outspent 6-1. Outspent 6-1. And of course, she hadn't held elected office before. And they won. They won. Before that, or after that, Alex went to Washington State and ran a campaign, and they won. When he got in, though, that campaign only had $40,000 in the bank. On election day, they had raised $5 million, and they won dramatically, right? So that's who and what my campaign staff is. So he's instituted a robust campaign to raise money and to fundraise and to get big donors in the door. The second thing is that we have a real national approach to fundraising. So we've had aggressive and successful fundraisers at Harvard, at Princeton, at Yale, at Tufts University, at Georgetown University, and we have more universities coming. A real national approach to raising money because people are concerned about the future of this great city. But it's not just that. We've got national attention in the Huffington Post, the Nation, Ebony Magazine, Jet Magazine. They've all done articles about this campaign and about the change that we're bringing here. And the result is that we've been raising money. And then I think the last thing is the thing that a lot of you know the most about. And it's this Obama-like small donor program that we have that's been raising money every day. We call it the Foundation for Change. And what happens is that people in New Orleans who want to see things happen but don't have really deep pockets say that they're going to make a commitment. And they commit $50 per month over the 5 or 6 months of the campaign to make sure that we can get this done. Right now we have 500 donors to this campaign. So imagine what happens as that Foundation for Change continues to grow. We can and will do it on the fundraising side. The other thing that people bring up is my age. They say, oh, maybe he's too young. But I've told you about my executive experience. I've told you that I've run these 2 organizations for 8 or 9 years. And I'll tell you what, when you look at the polling, my age is actually to our benefit. You know, it says that they want, the city wants, the residents want a person with a fresh perspective. They don't want a career politician. They don't want someone who's been in the legislature for 18 years. They want someone who understands how government works, but they want a fresh perspective, and that's what I intend to bring to City Hall. You know, the fact is, when you look at that description of who they want, and you think about the other candidates, in many ways, they are the wrong people at the wrong time. Right? They aren't who the people of the city of New Orleans want. So here's the thing, is that when it comes to these obstacles, we can do it. We can raise the money, and we have what it takes in order to win and to get into office at City Hall. But I tell you the last thing that we need, and that's that we need the people in this room to help us get this done. It's not something that happens by me working every day, or Melissa, or Alex, or any of the campaign staff pushing every day alone. We actually need the help of each person in this room to get this done. You know, it's clear to me that this is the most important mayoral election of our lifetime. The most important mayoral election of our lifetime. And, you know, I think that this question around who becomes mayor isn't a question around how long it takes for this city to recover. But in fact, it's a question about if we recover at all. Whether or not we become the great city that we once were. Now we have 2 options, right? We can continue to be the poster child for corruption and incompetence and failure, or we can become a model for rebirth, for renewal, and rebuilding. But when you look at the other folks who are talking about running, they can't bring real change to City Hall. They simply cannot because of who and what they are. We have to have a mayor who's tough, but in touch. We have to have a mayor who's smart, but willing to listen. We have to have a mayor who's driven, but collaborative. We have to have a mayor who's respected in the black and white communities in the city of New Orleans. If a mayor doesn't have those components, then he or she can't be successful. You know, when Martin Luther King was working to change America in the 60s, a lot of people doubted that it could be done. People would say to him that it wasn't the right time. They'd say that he wasn't the right person. They'd say that he was too young. But he would look at people and look them square in the eye and he'd say, if not now, then when? And if not me, then who? And I think that's the question before us right now. The question for the city of New Orleans. If not now, then when? And if not me, then who? When I look at what's happening in this city, it becomes clear that we have to have a very different approach. And that approach can't start on February 6th. It actually has to start right now. We have a clear sense that the change that needs to happen has to start now. You know, one leader said that inaction may be safe, but it builds nothing. Let me say that one more time. Inaction may be safe, but it builds absolutely nothing. I'm trying to build something here. I'm running this race so that I can help to rebuild the city of New Orleans, so that I can lead the rebuilding of the city of New Orleans. I've chosen action. And what I'm asking from each of you tonight is to choose action over inaction. Help us in this process. I can do this, but I can't do it without your help. And I think that in a few months after we've won this race, we'll look back at this and see that this is one of the moments that was one of the turning points in our success. And 4 or 5 years down the line, when we see change in the city of New Orleans, when we see a better school system, when we see the high murder rate has decreased, when we see economic development and more jobs in the city, I think that we'll look back at this group, we'll look back at this night, and we'll say that this was one of the most important moments in making change happen in the city of New Orleans. I think that I can do this, but I don't think that I can do it without your help. I appreciate that every single one of you has come out tonight, and I thank you for your support. Thank you.